Okay, and with that, thank you all for joining tonight's forum on immigrant rights during COVID-19. This forum is hosted by Councilmember David Rue, and in support with so many sponsors, we have speakers from Churla, from Vamos Unidos, and famed immigration attorney Judy Wood. I'm going to kick it over to my colleague Adina Bleish to go over a bit of the format of today's call and take it from there. Adina.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining Councilmember David Rue's forum on COVID-19 and immigrants' rights. Please hold all of your questions until the Q&A session is announced. Please make sure to ask a question and not just a statement. If you're an English speaker, please submit all questions in writing using the Zoom Q&A button on the bottom of your video screen. If you're a Korean, Spanish, Armenian, or Farsi speaker, you will be able to ask a translation assisted verbally using the raise your hand function, which is also at the bottom of your video screen. This call is open for questions about COVID-19 and immigrant rights. If you have a question that is on a different topic, please feel free to email the council member at david.rue@lacity.com. We may not have time to answer all the questions during the forum, but please know we will make sure to respond to you afterwards if you have submitted it. With this, please welcome Councilmember David Rue.
There we go. Thank you, Adina, and thank you, Mark. And I want to thank everyone for joining today's forum on COVID-19 and immigrant rights. I'm going to try to keep my opening short, but I do, again, really want to thank our sponsors. And let's see if this works. This is our first time doing it. If you could look at our screen for a list of all the sponsors. Is that on?
Second.
Okay. We have a lot of sponsors, and I really want to thank all of them. And the screen's going to be coming up shortly. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'll give everybody a quick moment to take a look at all of our sponsors. We really want to thank all the support that we're getting for immigrants. And you know, as a proud immigrant myself, I know how incredibly difficult it is finding legal and financial security. And now, especially with the pandemic before us, it has only it's become that much more difficult, which is why during this coronavirus pandemic, I have prioritized to help those impacted by the coronavirus. And in particular, of course, our seniors, our renters, our small businesses, the unhoused. And of course, everyone's health and safety is important, which is why it begins with more testing and with more PPEs. This is why this virtual town hall is so important and why community is so important for all of us. We turn to one another to lift each other up and keep each other safe. So I hope this forum creates a supportive community, not only for the immigrants who are here to learn and get more information, but for those who want to help our immigrant neighbors. And I also want to, at this time, share some breaking news. It's good news about the Immigrant Neighbor Fund. It's a brand new fund that started just a couple of days ago. It's basically offering $500 grants to immigrants who don't qualify for federal aid. This is on top of the Angelino card. This is separate from that. This was created by Voto Latino, APIA Vote, and Mission Asset Fund, and was generously funded by East West Bank at $1 million. They're still raising money, but they're also starting to give out grants for $500 to immigrants who don't qualify for any of the federal aid. And you can go to their website. It's immigrantneighborfund.com. That's immigrant, IMMIGRANT, neighbor, NEIGHBOR, fund, FUND.com. And you can go to my website to get that website address if you need it later. But more importantly, I am very excited to announce our amazing panelists that we have today. And that is, I want to start with Judy Wood. She is an immigration attorney who has a long-standing record in asylum cases. And for those who don't know, She won a landmark case before the Ninth Circuit Court in 1996, which changed asylum law and made women a protected class in immigration cases. There's also a movie about her as well. You can look her up. So if we can give her applause. Thank you, Judy, for joining us today. And of course, we also have two longstanding champions for immigrants and workers' rights who have dedicated their lives for justice. And that is Angelica Salas, who is the executive director for CHIRLA, or the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. I remember I volunteered for them back when I was in college. And she's also joined by Marisol Rubio, the regional field director. And of course, we have the long-standing champion and fighter, Juan José Gutierrez, who is the executive director of Vamos Unidos. I'm gonna let the panelists do a better introduction of themselves, but then after they introduce themselves, I'm gonna kick off our discussion with a few questions before opening it up to all the participants of this call. And as Adina said earlier, if you have any questions, please type it into the Zoom Q&A box, which is probably to your right or to your left in your screen. So with that said, I want to let each of the panelists say a few words and introduce themselves, as well as talk about some of the key services that they provide for the immigrant community. So I'll have Judy, do you want to go first? Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Am I unmuted now? Okay. I'm Judy Wood. I came to Los Angeles specifically for the purpose of helping immigrants, especially people who were coming from El Salvador and Guatemala seeking asylum. This was during the civil wars in those two countries. And now the whole situation has changed rather extremely. The immigration system has been decimated by the coronavirus. Nobody is getting a hearing. The courts are closed until at least May 29th. But the detainee population is in extreme danger because in the detention centers all over this country, people are subjected to crowded conditions where the virus is spreading and they don't have protection. And many people in these detention centers have severe health conditions, and yet the people who are in charge, commonly known as ICE, really are not too eager to let these people be paroled into the United States. It's very difficult to get someone paroled into the United States once they are detained in these detention centers. Also, the President of the United States has basically shut down immigration for at least 60 days. He did this, but he didn't say that people who are seeking asylum cannot come to the United States. The United States is a signatory to the Geneva Refugee Convention of 1951, and we have international covenants which we have to abide by, and we have something called the Refugee Convention of 1951, which really makes it incumbent upon the United States to allow refugees to come to the United States and to seek, and those crossing over into the border to seek asylum. Now, the problem is that people who come through the border are often labeled with this term, arriving aliens. And when a person is labeled with that term, arriving alien, they have little or no rights. They are subjected to very harsh conditions. First, they have a credible fear interview, which may or may not be conducted by a trained asylum officer. Often it's actually, this interview takes place in a rather difficult situation with an ICE officer or an officer who is basically, his job is to keep people out of here. It's conducting an asylum interview, which may or may not take into account all the fears and horrors that this person may have suffered in his or her own country. But if the person is lucky enough to pass the credible fear interview, then they are put into what's called removal proceedings. However, they remain a quote unquote arriving alien. And as an arriving alien, they remain detained unless the officer decides to parole them into the United States, finding that they're not a danger to the community or that they're not a flight risk. However, if the officer declines to parole this person in and the person is having a hearing before an immigration judge, the immigration judge will very blithely say, sorry, I don't have jurisdiction over bond for arriving aliens. And so these people can wither away in these detention centers for an unknown period of time. And to call someone an arriving alien is to dehumanize, absolutely dehumanize that person, and therefore to inflict horrible punishment on him. It becomes a death sentence when you're detained in these detention centers for an unknown period of time where there's a deadly disease raging. So we're trying to change that.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for that. And I'm going to turn it over to Angelica now to say a few words about yourself, as well as maybe some of the services your organization provides.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Angelica Salas. I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, better known as CHIRLA. I want to say first thank you to Councilmember Ryu and his staff for the invitation and for creating a space to share this important information. And I really want to say thank you for your many years of service to the immigrant community and the city of Los Angeles. Joining me tonight with additional resources is my colleague, Marisol Rubio, Community Education and Regional Field Coordinator. I'm an immigrant from Mexico, and at CHIRLA, we've worked for and with other immigrants and refugees to create a just society fully inclusive of immigrants. CHIRLA organizes, provides legal services, educates our community, drives mass civic engagement campaigns, and promotes policies that advance and protect human, civil, and labor rights. We are one of the largest immigrant-led organizations in California and in our city. There are millions of immigrants and refugees throughout our state and our city that prop up our economy with their labor and their societal contributions. And despite their contributions and also their vulnerable condition, they are barred from basic protections, exploited in the workplace, detained in horrible conditions, as you heard earlier, separated from their families, and denied the opportunity to integrate into their new home. For example, right now in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, we get calls on our hotline of individuals who are being left out of protection. This is the case of Gloria. Her husband died of COVID-19 in her own home. They're undocumented and they felt they could not seek treatment because of their immigration status. She's also infected with COVID-19, but she feels better now. Because of her status, she does not qualify for federal or state aid. At CHIRLA, we're helping her get the treatment she needs, food, and economic relief during this time. No one should go through what Norma just went through. So we have a serious problem. Immigrants, especially the undocumented, are afraid to get tested for fear that they will not be able to pay for the treatment that they need because many of them are uninsured. There are immigrants who are working in essential work who are not getting the personal protective equipment they need to be safe. And then there are other immigrant workers who are forced to continue working instead of sheltering in place because there is no economic relief for them. If the lives of these workers are in danger, then all our lives are in jeopardy. Our health is dependent on our neighbors and their well-being. At CHIRLA, our solution to this problem is to provide information and outreach to our community via our hotline and one-on-one outreach by phone and online in their language to guide them to the resources that they need to survive this pandemic. Through our campaign, I Am California, or Yo Soy California, we are also advocating at the local, state, and national level to ensure that immigrants are able to access free testing and treatment, and that they have access to the safety net and also the economic relief that their taxes actually pay for. And then CHIRLA, with its many coalition partners and representatives like you, Councilmember Ryu, ensured that LA and in California there was testing and treatment, and it was available to all residents. And immigrants are also included in funds that help them pay for food and basic necessities, like the fund that you have just described. And many individuals and families that we talk to really feel that working with us, they're able to at least connect to the services that do exist. But we're also asking them to get involved and engage in advocacy because many times what is available to them just does not meet all their needs. You know, I grew up without health insurance, and I'm a daughter, I'm an immigrant, I'm a daughter of immigrants, and many times we couldn't go to the doctor. I remember how scary it was when anyone got sick in the home. So we only used the hospital when it was a severe emergency. And I know there's so many people listening who are going through the same thing right now. It's scary. I know that you are struggling right now, but I also want us to understand that we can overcome our individual struggles if we all work together. And so tonight, I want to first just again say thank you to Councilmember Ryu, but also invite you to become part of our campaign of Yo Soy California, I am California. You can go right to our website at www.chirla.org and sign up and demand that immigrants are treated equally in this pandemic. And I also want to say to all our immigrants that you can also call our hotline at 1-888-6-CHIRLA, and you can call and we will help you get to the treatment that you need and the services that are available, and also continue to fight for the things that we deserve. And again, I just want to say thank you for having us tonight.
I am too. Maybe this is a peak time for a lot of folks on Zoom calls, but this is being recorded. So if you miss any information, you could come back to my website or to Facebook and you could read, or not just my site, but at Chirla's site or Vamos Unidos or any of the other sponsors who are also going to have it rebroadcast. So with that, I want to have Juan José, please say a few words and also about what your organization services do.
Thank you, Councilmember David Ryu. I really appreciate your efforts and your staff's efforts putting together this very important community forum on immigration services and benefits that may be available to the immigrant community. For myself, for over 3 decades, my day-to-day work has involved providing educational, legal, social, and advocacy services to citizens and immigrants in the areas of immigration and naturalization in order that they may receive all benefits in line with the laws, regulations, treaties, and policies of this country, of the United States. In addition to these and other services, we promote and maintain a high-quality informational system through which information is disseminated to the community at large, public and social agencies, educators, and all other persons who are involved in the area in the search of solutions of the problems of families with members who are undocumented immigrants. Finally, and in the interest of brevity, over the years, I have led efforts and many actions to promote the organization and mobilization of immigrants to secure full rights for all, including undocumented workers. The best tool I have used to achieve full rights for immigrants is work to build coalitions that include all communities and individuals, irrespective of race, nationality, ethnicity, gender, or their sexual orientation. I've always believed that is the strongest formula we have to overcome rampant discrimination and the exclusion of the undocumented. So we have been here for a long time. We will continue to be here, always working to make sure that the promise of justice and equality for all is extended to immigrants, whether they're documented or not. And again, thank you very much for this forum. I think it's going to go a long ways in uniting people and bringing people together toward common solutions and goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Juan. Thank you very much for that. And also to Judy and Angelica, thank you so much. Let me kick it off with a few questions before we turn it over to our folks who are on this call. Let me start with yourself, Judy. Can you talk a little bit about the state of the asylum laws in this country and other immigration laws in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic? And, what are the trends?
I actually have some good news, believe it or not. There are some recent decisions coming out of circuit courts of appeal, which have actually, some of you may have heard of this horrific decision, Matter of AB, in which Jeff Sessions basically said that women leaving a horrific situation in a Central American country have no right to asylum. And recently, very recently, there have been 3 cases that have overruled that ruling, including people who are seeking asylum based on resistance to gangs. And out of the Third Circuit, there's a precedential decision, Brian Antonio Guzman Orellano, which was the opinion was filed as recently as April 17th, 2020, which found that people who resist gangs are now members of social group, meaning that a person who's running away from a gang in one of these countries and has resisted recruitment into these gangs and has resisted the horrific practices that gangs perpetrate upon innocent victims, is now a member of a social group according to the Third Circuit. And therefore that person, because he has a cognizable social group, he can actually win asylum, or she. The other case that I wanted to report on came out on, the decision came out on as recently as April, no, this was January 23rd, 2020. A woman who was fleeing horrible abuse in her country was able to win asylum because the court found that her standing up to the abuse and saying that she wouldn't take it anymore was her political opinion. She was from El Salvador, and machismo was so much a bad part of the fabric of that country that when she resisted being dominated by male domination and being abused because of the acceptance of male domination, the court found that that indeed was a political opinion. And so she didn't have to go through the whole analysis of a membership in a cognizable social group. The court found that she had a political opinion because she stood up to the dominant society, which condoned horrific treatment of women in El Salvador. And last but not least, the First Circuit, as recently as April 24th, 2020, came out with a decision, Jacqueline Miguelina de Peña Mianagua, in which they overruled matter of AB. Now, matter of AB decimated asylum cases for women, just said women are not a particular social group, as well as people fleeing gangs. And this case says, well, yes, they are. And the reason, first of all, the case in AB didn't say that nobody could get asylum under these rules. It said the case needed to be remanded for further analysis. And yet, up until now, when you go to immigration court or go to an asylum interview with a woman who's fleeing from domestic violence, the judges invariably will say, well, my hands are tied. I can't grant asylum because of matter of AB, but this case changes that. It's out of the First Circuit. So there is some good news in spite of all the terrible news. And I think, one more thing, I think what this COVID thing, this horrible disease that's affecting everybody is bringing to everyone's attention is we can do the right thing. We can all do the right thing. And we must.
Thank you, Judy. I thought that question was only going to have bad news, especially with all this child separation and all this stuff going on. Glad to see some silver linings. That's great to hear. Angelica, I want to ask you, given the uncertainty that many immigrants already face being compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, can you talk about some of the best resources that are currently available that the immigrant community can turn to for assistance and support?
Well, number one, I think that what I do want to tell our immigrant community is that the city of Los Angeles and many of the community-based organizations that actually are operating in LA are here to help you. So what we really want to expand the trust that you have in these organizations at this moment and know that there is great work trying to move in that direction. And so one of the things there's different kinds of supports. So there are supports at the city level, and they don't just include funds, but they also include support in terms of eviction relief, especially if you're being harassed by your landlord because you aren't able to pay for your rent. There's also at this moment opportunities for you to seek out information in your language around testing and treatment. And I really want to emphasize this piece around testing and treatment, and especially as it relates to the LA City, but also LA County. There are testing centers all across the city. And we are sending a very important message tonight that if you believe that you have been infected with COVID-19, we need you to go and get tested. Because in this moment, we see a huge spike in the infections and also in the mortality rates of Latinos and African Americans and people of color in general. So I think right now it's important to reach out to Chirla and reach out to organizations like Carecen and Vamos Unidos right here with us today, because we can guide you to some of that treatment right now. At this moment, I am actually also going to ask Marisol Rubio, who's here with me. She's working in the, she's working out in the community, trying to get some information to our folks. But we have been trying to, and as much as we can, get this information out to our community. And tomorrow, we believe that the governor will be making an announcement about economic relief for many, thousands of undocumented immigrants. And so we are going to be there ready to help. But Marisol, anything else you want to add to Councilman's question?
Thank you so much, Angelica, and thank you so much, Councilmember Rue, for allowing me to have the space and be able to share our wonderful work that we do at Chirla, especially during these times that many of the communities are being affected. In addition to what Angelica mentioned about how important it is prioritizing our health, regardless of your immigration status, we encourage folks to seek, if they have symptoms pertaining to COVID-19, to get tested. Seek your local My Health LA plan or local health providers to get additional support or just questions about that. I saw in the chat that our hotline number was shared. I'll go ahead and also say verbally, just in case. That number is for everyone, regardless on your immigration status, that they could call pertaining questions about eviction, how to get food access, know your rights, just anything. The number is 1-877. I'm sorry, it's 1-888-624-4752, and I highly encourage folks, and I could also add that in the chat. In addition to that, I do want to bring up the Department of Mental Health just announced that they're providing a nurse advice line where more than 3 million folks are uninsured in California, and even if you're uninsured, there's a nurse line for assistance, and they could also answer any questions pertaining to COVID-19. And I also could add the number in the chat, but verbally I'll go ahead and say it. And that number is 1-877-409-9052. And those are pertaining a nurse line that they could answer any questions. In addition, we also have food assistance programs for many undocumented folks, especially folks who just need to grab a meal to survive during these times. There's grab and go assistance programs. There's Meals and Wheels for families or students who are being affected by this. And if anyone has questions, they could call our hotline number to direct them to where they could find their providers. In addition, everyone has the right to exercise their right in pertaining to workers' right, how to get paid sick leave if you're undocumented, or how to get state disability insurance or workers' compensation. I definitely encourage everyone to seek our website, chirla.org/resources, or call our hotline number if they have questions pertaining to that. We have a wonderful staff that can answer your questions pertaining just workers' rights assistance. And lastly, Angelica also mentioned about the economic relief, how it's going to be announcing, and we also can provide you questions if you have pertaining those assistance, and we could guide you if you have any questions at the moment. So once again, our hotline, as I mentioned many times, it's a wonderful number to call just about anything, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. And the hotline number is 1-888-624-4752. And also please check out our website, chirla.org/resources. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angelica. Thank you, Marisol. And again, I just want to reiterate what they said. I am just so proud as a council member in the city of LA. every single service, every single program that we offer in the city of LA for COVID is for everyone. Your immigration status does not matter. Your financial status does not matter. So when it comes to testing, when it comes to eviction moratorium, your status does not matter. And when it comes to testing, all testing is free. It does not matter whether you have health insurance. It does not matter whether you could pay or not. It is completely free. So if you need more information, you can go to the mayor's website or just go to my website where there's a link where you could register to get tested. And now in the city of LA, the mayor has opened up testing to everyone, not just people who have symptoms, not just people who are 65 and older, but it's open to everyone. But of course, it's still prioritizing if you are 65 and over, or if you do exhibit symptoms, you will go into the front of the line, but it is open for everyone. And especially for our front care first responders. And when I say first responders, I'm not just talking about doctors, nurses, and our healthcare workers and police or fire. I'm expanding that definition, especially for our grocery store workers, for those who are doing any kind of retail. They're all considered first responders in my book. So please, please go get tested. And of course, I want to turn it over now to, I want to ask Juan a question. And Juan, and it's something that you said earlier as well, because I know you've been a decades-long activist who has been often in the trenches and leading hunger strikes yourself for the fair treatment of immigrants. And you have directly witnessed the history for immigrants and workers' rights. What would you say has been the biggest change nationally for immigrants since COVID-19 pandemic happened compared to other waves in history that have shaped the immigrant experience?
Well, thank you. I think that with the unexpected arrival of COVID-19 pandemic, the biggest national challenge for immigrants has to do with the fact that today, a sizable portion of the American people, although I want to underscore, not the majority of the American people, but up to and including the executive branch of government, are no longer committed to upholding the full political, social, civil, and cultural rights of undocumented immigrants. That is unfortunate. That is why today, any immigrant arrested and charged with a crime, whether they have documents or not, will immediately be placed in an ICE hold, transferred to an immigration detention center from where express removal is certain to take place unless the detainee is able to secure competent legal representation that can help stop the inevitable deportation. Secure bail bond, and in this way afford that person the opportunity to fight deportation effectively and possibly win legal benefits up to and including the much sought after legal permanent residency in the United States. For these reasons, we have partnered with a host of legal offices where we refer immigrant families in need of legal assistance to help them navigate the legal immigration system, because we think that that is the most effective way presently to help prevent family disunity. And I think that's what this whole thing is all about. Immigrants are being hit from every direction by very powerful forces. And unless we provide them with the legal assistance, with the organization and mobilization needed, as we have done at crucial other times in our history, we will suffer the consequences. So I think that the good news is that we all believe in working together, making available services available to everyone that needs them without any discrimination whatsoever, and move forward. And I think that what's been mentioned tonight is crucial and important to understanding that we shall overcome. We will not be undone by the greed and the lack of compassion by some amongst us. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. And I want to ask the two attorneys, both Judy and Juan, if you could give us right now, especially during this coronavirus pandemic, it's always important to remind immigrants of their rights. So if you could impart 3 key basic immigration rights protected under law that every immigrant should know, what would you recommend?
Well, as far as I go, I think that if someone has a fear of persecution, a fear of being tortured in his or her country, that person cannot, by law, be deported to that country. And whether they're detained or not, they shall and must apply for asylum or relief under the Convention Against Torture. Even if they're about to board a plane, they can say, I'm not going. I'm afraid that I'm going to be tortured. And it's by law, you can get a stay and not be deported. You can come to this country and not be deported. You can live in this country and not be deported. If you have a relative who's in a penal institution, that person can fight for his asylum case, fight for his withholding case, and not be deported. There's a difference between asylum and withholding, but it means that if you have committed a crime, you might not be eligible for asylum, but you're still eligible for withholding. And I, just like everyone else on this panel, I'm deeply indebted and in gratitude toward Councilman Rue for allowing this to happen, because people need this information. And in my office, you can get free information, you can get free consultations every day of the week, including on Saturday. My website is Law Offices of Judith L. Wood, and the phone number, 2 phone numbers, 213-680-7801 or 323-683-5166. And I'm available 24/7 to offer advice and moral and legal support, because in these times we need moral support. We need to stand by each other. As Juan José said, we shall overcome.
Juan José, if you want to add, I know you guys were all instrumental in having the immigrant rights cards, so you can let immigrants know. I mean, especially when police if anyone pulls them over and asks about the immigration status, they're not allowed to do so. So Juan, you want to give a couple of quick?
Well, I mean, everything Judy said, but I would only add that I think one of the most important rights that we have to preserve and teach constantly the immigrant community that they must not give up is the right to a hearing, the right to legal counsel. So, you have the right to remain silent, not sign voluntary departures of any kind. Get in touch with your family if the immigrant himself in trouble is unable to communicate with an attorney, so that person can reach out to an attorney or an organization with attorneys that can provide the legal assistance to preserve the rights that person might be entitled to. The moment you become intimidated and succumb to fear and the intimidation of armed guards, armed officers of the law, you're giving up your rights. You cannot do that. We must continue teaching our community that they must stand up for their rights. And like I mentioned earlier, the most critical assistance that immigrants in detention need right now, or those that are arrested now or in the future, they need to get legal assistance, because otherwise, the way the situation stands right now, many thousands upon thousands of people immigrants are being deported on the idea that they're arriving aliens, as Attorney Judy Wood just mentioned, and without any regard to their due process rights. So, don't sign away your rights. Stay silent, contact your family, or directly contact someone that can provide you or direct you to where you can find legal assistance to protect your rights.
Thank you, Juan José. And I want to, for all those folks there are some friends of immigrants who are on this call as well and who are listening. It's very important. Let friends of yours who are immigrants who might not know these laws or know these rights, let them know about it, and let them know, because most immigrant communities, especially if they can't speak the language or don't know the culture, they're too scared. And especially if they come from a culture where they don't go to their authorities for a variety of reasons, then they're least likely to seek support. So it's very important for allies of immigrants to inform our neighbors who are immigrants of their rights. And, you know, and both Juan and Judy was pressing on the point of preserving your rights, know your rights, don't sign anything. But I want to have Angelica or Marisol talk about the census, because that one, please do get involved. Yeah. Please do fill out the form. So I want you guys to talk a little about the census. I know we're veering a little off, but it's very important.
No, but it's all connected. So we talk about, you have the right. I want to think about all the questions. I mean, all the things that you do have a right. One, you have a right in your workplace. We are getting a lot of calls of individuals who are made to work in unsafe conditions, who aren't getting paid what they deserve at this moment. There's exploitation. So I just want you to know, irrespective of your immigration status, you have rights in the workplace, and many people who are willing to stand up for you, especially right now, because it's about safeguarding your life. I want to repeat, in the city of Los Angeles, housing. If you are faced with an eviction, you have the same right as anybody. The eviction moratorium goes for everybody, irrespective of your immigration status. And we are receiving too many calls of individuals who are dealing with that situation. But then the other right we have, so we have the right to resources and protection, but we also have the right to participate and raise our voices in this moment. And so irrespective of your status, and that includes our civic engagement duties, and that means participating in the census. So what everybody needs to do is, in this moment, is to participate in the census. Now, we're in the middle of a major pandemic, and many of the resources that we need for healthcare, for our schools, we've been talking about how there have been resources made available to our communities. A lot of that money has come from the federal government, and it's many times allocated, but $150 billion in the first CARES package was allocated based on population. So, and that means everybody, that includes immigrants, anybody who lives in the United States. So what we've been doing in the middle of responding to COVID-19 and everything that we've discussed earlier is also asking our community to participate in our solutions. The solutions are participating in the census, getting engaged, participating in actions related to your community, whether it's virtual rallies, whatever that looks like. At this moment, it matters. And to me, you can't talk about rights without responsibilities. And part of that responsibility is really about saying we have to take the reins of our future. And if we see everything we're struggling with right now, part of it is because we don't have the resources dedicated to our communities, especially our poorest communities. And what you can do today is fill out that census and increase the representation, especially, I want to say, in your district. So everybody who lives in Councilmember Rue's district, we need to have the biggest participation possible. And I know that many of you might be scared, but I want you to know that we have really worked really hard so that the census is protected from any of these attacks at the federal level. They tried, and we've won over and over again. Okay.
Great, thank you. And you know, one last clarification. For anyone who's hearing, if you need any kind of help, call any one of these folks, whether it's Judy Woods, whether it's Juan José from Vamos Unidos, or Churla, contact them. If you forgot who does exactly what, don't worry about it. You contact any one of them or contact my office. We will make sure, if we can't do it, we will connect you to the right person who can. So I know Judy already mentioned her phone number and our website, but is phone the best way to contact you, Judy, or email? Can we unmute Judy? Oh, hold on, Judy. We have to unmute you. Can someone unmute Judy? Can someone unmute Judy? Uh-oh, I think the moderator might have got cut off.
Just 1 second, some technical difficulty.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna ask all of you guys for Churla and Juan José about the best way for people to contact you guys. So, and we're gonna put it all in the chat column.
Yes.
So everybody's right. Oh, there we go. You wanna talk about the best way to contact you?
Yeah, we've said it several times. Go to our website, go to our hotline. That's probably the very best. And of course, you could always reach out to us via email, salas@chirla.org or mrubio@chirla.org. So you could also reach us directly and we'll guide you to the person or the organization that can actually also help you. And sometimes, we can help you at Chirla, but sometimes, you need help from another organization, another entity will guide you to those resources as well.
Okay. You want to unmute Judy or Juan? Juan Jose?
And I already sent Mark our webpage, our email. We have 12 lines. People can call us. I think something wonderful about all the participants tonight, including your office, Councilmember, is that we kept working through the coronavirus because we're that committed to serving the best interest of all of our communities, those where we live and where we work, and those that are beyond where we work and live, because we're fighters for justice and equality. So they can call us at any time. If we're not in the office at the time persons call, you can leave a message, you can write us, you have the webpage, you have our email. I can give it on the air. Our phone number is main line is 213-746-6264, and then you can write us to Vamos Unidos at what is it? I forget.
We got it. We'll
I sent it.
We'll put it on the chat.
You got it. Yeah.
All right, Judy. I think we still got technical difficulty on your microphone, Judy. Sorry about that. But it's on the chat column. Her number is 213-680-7801 or 323-683-5166. All their contact information will be on my website as well, and I'll go over that in the end again. But now I'm going to open up to questions for those on the call. Remember, these questions are for immigration related only. And if you have any other questions regarding any other issues like renters' rights or anything else, you could call my office at 213-473-7004 or email me at david.ryu, which is RYU, at lacity.org. So if you could ask questions using the Zoom Q&A button. Some of them have already been answered at the bottom of your screen. And if you speak Spanish, Korean, Armenian, or Farsi, and you would like to ask a question, please raise the virtual hand on your right, and we will bring you live, and we could have people answer the question. So I'm going to have various folks say this in the various languages. So Daniel in Korean, go ahead.
한국어로 질문하고 싶으시면 화면 아래에 있는 Raise Your Hand 버튼을 누르시면 바로 질문에 참여하실 수 있습니다.
Thank you, Daniel. Juan Jose in Spanish.
Si usted habla español y le gustaría hacer una pregunta, por favor apriete el botón que dice Raise Your Hand, que se traduce en alce a la mano, que está ubicado en la parte baja de su pantalla, enseguida del botón que dice Chat. Y lo cubriremos en vivo.
Thank you. And Milan in Armenian.
Բարևձեզ, եթե անգլերեն չեք խոսում եւ կուզեք հայերենով հարցնաք, խնդրում եմ սեղմեք ցածի ձեռքի նշանը.
Thank you. And Nikki in Farsi.
شب بخیر. اگر سوالی دارین لطفاً دکمه‌ای که عکس دست داره رو فشار بدین و من میتونم سوالتون رو ترنسلیت کنم به انگلیسی.
Thank you. So, if you forget, if you don't remember to answer today and you have other questions, you could contact any one of our offices. We have multiple language capabilities and we will make sure you get help. So, and if you don't get to all your questions in this forum, we'll also answer you by email. If you put your phone number, we'll also give you a call as well. So I'm going to turn this over to Mark and Adina to ask the questions. Take over the questions.
Sure. We have one hand raised in our chat from Pedro Tot. I'm going to bring him live to ask his question. 1 second. Pedro, are you there? I think you might be muted, Pedro, on your screen.
I can answer his question because he put it on the chat, and I'll do it.
Wonderful. Go for it, Angelica.
Ok, hola Pedro, ¿cómo está? Muchas gracias por participar. Nos pidió que quería usted renovar su residencia y someter someter su aplicación para la ciudadanía y quería saber si estábamos abiertos. Le queríamos decir que sí. En este momento nosotros estamos ayudando a las personas a través de estas plataformas y también ayudando a someter todos sus trámites. Aunque están cerradas las oficinas, estamos tratando de avanzar todo lo que podamos en torno a su solicitud. Así que nos puede llamar al teléfono que habíamos dado para poder ayudarlos. His question was whether or not he could actually apply right now for residency or citizenship, and if we were open to doing that. And my answer was yes, we are. We have been, we just transferred everything virtually using the Zoom platform, but actually it's a telehealth, so it meets the standards of confidentiality, and so we can help you with your residency or becoming a citizen. There's lots of things the process is going to take longer, but we are there to help, and all the process is free. So we can help you. We've given you the number. You can reach out and we can help you with this process Monday through Friday.
Okay, thank you, Angelica. Just a reminder to folks who come on live to the call, if you want to ask your question live, you've raised your hand in the chat to make sure you're not on mute. Unmute yourselves before asking the question. Our next question comes from Nane Avadyan. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Nane, you're on. Make sure to unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Yes, hello. Can I ask my question in Armenian?
Yes, let me bring on our translator. And yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Նախ շնորհակալություն եմ հայտնում նման նախաձեռնության համար Councilmember David Ruin եւ շնորհակալություն, որ կա նաեւ անգլերենից հայերեն հարցերը տալու հնարավորություն եւ իմ հարցը ուղղված է Immigration Attorney Judith Woodin. Հարցը հետեւյալն է. Public charge-ի կանոններով, այսինքն այս օրենքը նախատեսում է բացասական է համարում կառավարությունից օգնություն ստանալը։ Արդյոք այս COVID-ի պայմաններում, երբ որ մարդիկ դիմում են այդուհանդերձ կարիք ունեն դիմելու օգնության, այս կետը կիրառվելու է թե ոչ, հաշվի առնվելու է թե ոչ։
Yeah. The question that she has around the 350 million migration and refugee assistance is actually to help organization. It's actually to help the infrastructure of entities that are helping bring in refugees and migrants into the country or supporting them. It is not individual grants to individual people. It's more for the organizations that help refugees. I hope that answers your question.
Mark, can I address the previous question?
Yes, go right ahead, Milan.
Nana, խնդրում եմ կարող եք մի անգամ էլ հարցնեք։ Չլսեցին։
Հիմա ես նորից ասեմ, որ շնորհակալություն եմ հայտնում այս նախաձեռնության համար եւ հնարավորության, որ հայերենով նաեւ հարցը կարող եմ տալ։ Իմ հարցը հետեւյալն էր public charge-ի մասով, երբ որ մարդիկ խնդիր բացասական է համարվում, երբ որ public charge-ի ժամանակ, այսինքն ըստ նոր օրենքով մարդիկ օգտվել են կառավարության օգնությունից։ Հիմա շատ մարդիկ կան, որ այս COVID-ի պայմաններում կօգտվեն կամ կդիմեն կառավարության օգնության։ Արդյոք արդեն իրանց ստատուսի հարցը լուծվելու ժամանակ այս public charge-ի օրենքի շրջանակներում իրանք կտուժան, իրանք ձևով որևէ ձևով կազդի, եթե իրանք դիմեն կառավարության օգնությանը։
Milan, you got to unmute Milan.
Milan, if you had something to add, please unmute your screen now. I'm not sure if she's, oh, Milena, are you there?
Hi, so I think the question is regarding, you know, immigration assistance related to, directed to Judy Woods. I don't know if she is on the call anymore. I don't see her screen here, but I believe the question was asking where they can get that assistance. And I know we put it in the chat box on the right. So what I'm going to do is follow up with Nana after this call and speak to her directly, because I don't see Judy here anymore.
Milen, this is Angelica. I heard public charge quite a bit in her question. Is there any specific, is she afraid that maybe using some of this assistance would trigger public charge?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so the answer is in most instances, first of all, testing and treatment for COVID-19 is exempt from public charge. So you won't, so you can express to her that that is not going to hurt her in her immigration case. And many of these aids are one-time, non-continuous aid. So they're just like the $500. There's like more like stipends. And what we've looked into everything, especially right now around aid, is that public charge will only get triggered probably if it's more than a year. So 11 months or less. And this is a pandemic. And certain supports like this, she shouldn't be afraid to use. I hope, you know, that could help her in this, in answering this question. Could you translate that?
Thank you. Okay, Nana, so public charge ko hamar chi dimi immigration hamar tas erku amis unes. So watch me karavon chuna kez mi dimi yev inzet karagas khosas bor meeting gapvi hetomen kararin khosan masin, okay?
Լսումակինց
Ayo.
Ամիլիաջան կներեք ես մոռացա ներկանա, ասեք որ ես ասպարես թերթից եմ եւ INCA Hollywood-ից եմ եւ ուղղակի նաեւ հարցազրույց պետքա article պատրաստեմ եւ այս հարցը պիտի, այսինքն համայնքից է եկել հարցը, խնդրում եմ։
Okay, so որ այս meeting-ը վերջանամ, ես կարող եմ քո հետ կապվեմ, հետո
Հա, բայց ուզում եմ որ իրանց տեղեկացնես, որ իրանք իմանան, որ ես թերթ
Okay, so Nana also wants everyone on the panel to know that she is a reporter for Aspres News, and she is going to be reporting on the immigration forum today. So we may need to follow up, Angelica, with more specifics, if that's okay with you. And she'd just like the panel to know and also to thank everyone.
Thank you.
Great. And I think Judy, oh, go ahead, Juan Jose.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something that Angelica mentioned, but very quickly, and this is important, about the public charge, the new public charge that went into effect as of February the 24th of this year. You can only be disqualified from legalization or other immigration benefits if you accumulate 12 months or more of receiving certain public assistance. So if you're getting, if you have emergency Medicare, for example, and you only use it for 1 month, use it. That's not 12 months or more. So, people ought not to be walking away from essential medical services. For example, there are others, just for the sake of maybe not being disqualified from receiving an immigration benefit. So I want to underscore that, if it's something that you use once or for a week or, 2 weeks, a month, or even a little bit more than a month, if it comes to that, that's not enough to disqualify you. And therefore, you should not use a benefit that you really, really need, even if it's deemed a public benefit, so long as you don't use it for 12 months or more.
Great. We have some written questions for the panel that I will ask for those who can answer it. This one comes from Christy in Beechwood Canyon. My husband went back to his native country to visit family before the COVID-19 pandemic. He had emergency surgery from which he is still recovering. Then the COVID-19 travel restrictions started happening. He has a green card, We are concerned about him being outside of the country over his 180-day limit because of the pandemic. What will happen if he can't come back before the 180 days are up? Is there action I can take now to prevent any legal problems with his return?
So the first thing is obviously the ban does not include green card holders. So, you know, they would be able to return. But today, the House of Representatives under the leadership of Nancy Pelosi actually put forward the HEROES Act. And part of that bill also talks about how, it seeks to put a halt on any time accumulated, especially in this case, for legal permanent residents that were outside of the country because they can't be outside more than 6 months. So there's a certain halt in time and for a whole bunch of other cases. So I want you to pay special attention to the HEROES Act right now because it has some really important protections for immigrants, especially in your case. But because he's a green card holder, he's exempt from this and shouldn't actually be penalized, especially given the situation.
Great, thank you so much. We have a written question that came in through our Q&A. Can any of the speakers break down any of the information of the $350 million Migration and Refugee Assistance in the CARES Act Phase 3?
So this was, I answered the question earlier that if it is the program that I understand it was for the refugee serving organizations, but also mostly it was for the international organizations working with migrant and refugee populations right now. It was to support them in this moment.
Great. I'm going to bring we have a Diego Soto who raised his hand as well. We're going to bring him live. And let's see if I can bring him on here.
While you're doing that, can we get public charge? What services are considered public charge? Juan, Jose, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, any kind of public assistance. I have the whole list. For example, welfare benefits that go to the interested immigrant in obtaining immigration benefits, not to their citizen children, spouse, parents, etc. So we're talking about public assistance that goes directly to the immigrant who's in the process of gaining legal status or is thinking about applying for legal status. Another thing that I mentioned is Medicaid, as long as it's not emergency Medicaid, because Medicaid is exempted. So for example, a lot of times people go to the hospital, they don't have medical insurance. They're told by people that are, they have a lot of goodwill, we're gonna sign you up for Medicaid. They stamp their signature, they get signed up. And the thing to be careful with is that once you're signed up, make sure that you don't accumulate 12 or more months, even if you're not using the services. A lot of people assume that just because you went and you got one service during a certain month and a certain day, that doesn't mean 12 months or more if that kind of time goes by and you accumulate it. But the way the system works is that if you don't notify the service agency that you want to be signed off that service, you can be accumulating the 12 months or more, and then you can be adversely affected when you try to get the immigration benefit. A lot of the public benefits that you cannot get, you can't really get unless you're a lawful resident or at least a temporary resident. So for example, food stamps, again, if they go to members that are citizens or legal residents, they don't affect you. But if you're a TPS person, temporary protected status person, or a DACA person, and you get food stamps because you're entitled to get them, or at least you were up until recently, for purposes of the new public charge regulation, you have to be careful about not accumulating 12 or more months of receiving that benefit, okay? Because you are eligible to get it. Unless you're totally undocumented, you don't get it. Your children can get it. So be careful and make sure that you don't accumulate 12 or more months of that benefit. If you're a university student and you get benefits that are deemed a public benefit, I mean a public charge benefit, that can also affect you. And that's mostly for individuals that are on study abroad programs. They came in temporarily to get education and they're entitled to get certain benefits. Make sure that you don't get certain benefits that in the eyes of the immigration authorities are deemed public charge benefits. And those are some of them.
Great, thank you, Juan Jose. We have Diego Soto on the line. I'm gonna unmute him now. Diego, if you are muted, you have to unmute your screen, Diego, before asking your question.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Buenas.
Buenas tardes.
Agradecido con el tiempo de ustedes hacia nosotros, que nos escuchen. Pues yo tengo una pregunta acerca del tipo de visa EB2 NIW, EB2 NIY de interés nacional. Yo soy ingeniero electrónico, tengo una maestría en tecnología de Colombia, trabajaba en Medellín en el gobierno y estoy aquí en este país desde hace 3 años. He participado en algunos proyectos, pero quería saber si alguna persona presente en el foro me puede ayudar con este tipo de visa, la EB2 NIW de interés nacional.
José, you want to take it?
Perdón. ¿Yo o alguien más?
Vale.
Okay, so I'll take it. La visa EB2 que usted tiene, Diego, ¿ya se venció o no se ha vencido? Y si se venció, ¿cuándo se venció?
No, Juan José, yo no, digamos que yo llegué acá sin esa visa y pues he estado acá y me di cuenta de ese tipo de visa. Entonces yo entré con visa de turista, pero yo quería saber qué posibilidades hay de que estando acá se pueda acceder a ese tipo de visa.
Ok, pero la visa de turista ¿está válida todavía?
No, porque llegué hace 3 años.
¿Cuándo se le venció?
Esto se me venció en junio del 2017.
Ok, bueno, el único beneficio que usted pudiera tener por trabajo, por todas las especialidades que usted tiene, sería si su visa estuviera válida todavía, no hubiera expirado y a usted le hicieran una oferta de empleo. Como ese no es el caso, usted no va a poder, por iniciativa propia, pedir esta EBW2, esta visa que así se llama, porque usted está fuera de estatus dentro de los Estados Unidos. Entonces usted no puede meter una certificación de empleo, pedir la EBW, nada de eso, porque ya su visa está expirada. Usted está fuera de estatus. Eso es lo que yo sé. So the question is, he's got a master's, he's an engineer. He came into the U.S. with a visa that expired in 2017, and he now wants to know whether or not he's eligible to apply for an EB visa, W2 visa. My understanding is that if you're out of status, you cannot initiate a petition for that type of visa while in the States. If he were in status, he would be able to apply, and he would even be able to take a step further and possibly legalize his legal status permanently through labor certification. But again, that requires that he be in status and his visa, his US visa through which he came into the country, he entered the country, needs not be expired. And so unfortunately, that's not the case. So Diego, quizás hay que llamarle a alguien que sea más especialista, mucho más experimentado en ese tipo de visa, pero mi entendimiento y lo que yo sé de ese requisito o cualquier otra visa que tenga que ver con visas por trabajo, ya sean temporales o permanentes, es que usted tiene que estar en estatus, es decir, estar aquí legalmente al momento de archivar su petición. Y ese lamentablemente no es el caso suyo.
Oh, ok, sí, porque pues yo leí que NIW, pues que quiere decir es de interés nacional y que uno mismo se presenta su experiencia. Pues yo desarrollé proyectos de tecnología en Medellín, en Colombia, acerca de Google y unas aplicaciones. Entonces yo tengo, digamos, todo ese récord, tengo mi maestría en todos mis grados en inglés, pero ese era el vacío que yo tenía. Si era en este momento capaz de presentarme pues a raíz de mi estatus. Yo cuando llegué pues no sabía de qué me iba a quedar, no sabía que existía este tipo de visa, pues si no lo hubiera hecho. Por mi experiencia ahora pues está en Colombia. Estoy asesorando la alcaldía de Medellín en este momento desde acá, pero no como trabajo, sino más como por un voluntariado. Yo pues en el momento en que se requiera, he estado aquí apoyando procesos en algún colegio y en unas empresas, pero no, digámoslo, con pago, sino como un voluntariado. Entonces, mi idea era esa. Y pues le agradecería de pronto si me dejaran en los comentarios un contacto de un abogado o alguna persona que me pueda orientar más, se lo agradecería. Estoy luchando por estar aquí en el país, con mi familia, tengo mis hijas y todos mis padres y mi hermana, que también pues no sé si le pueden dar la oportunidad que les quiere hacer una pregunta, que está terminando el high school también. Entonces, no sé, Juan José o la persona que me pueda llevar con algún contacto, me lo deje, por favor.
Claro que sí.
Y puede ir con Vamos US o con Chirla y ahí le pueden contestar estas preguntas, pero también a su hija. Nosotros trabajamos bastante con jóvenes indocumentados, que puede ser la situación de ellos. Así que por favor, comuníquese. Le hemos dejado en el chat toda la información sobre Chirla para que también su hija se pueda conectar con los jóvenes.
Aquí está mi hermana, es mi hermana y mi hermana que está grabándose ahorita y quería preguntarles también.
Hi. Hi.
Hi, we're hearing you.
Okay. I'm a high school student. I'm a senior and my graduation is June 2. And I was supposed to get some information about some scholarships like DreamHack and Kafka, and I filled out the information, but I didn't get any response about it. And I talked with my counselor and she didn't give me any answer. And I'm being kind of confused because I've been looking for scholarships and it's difficult because the amount of money is really low and I really want to study here.
Okay.
And I don't know what kind of a scholarship or program do you have that can help me?
So this is, what's your name?
My name is Sarah.
Okay, Sarah. So yes, there is something that is wonderful about, fighting with so many people for so many years in the state of California, is that undocumented youth have access to financial aid and also can be considered residents for in-state tuition. You do not qualify, if you're undocumented, you don't qualify for federal financial aid, but you do qualify for state financial aid, and you also qualify for some of the private scholarships available in your, depending on where you're gonna go. So the first thing is you need to apply. If you're applying for college, there is something called an affidavit that basically says that you do not qualify for the federal aid and you could qualify as an AB 540 student. And by being basically being noted as an AB 540 student, then you can go to your local college, your community college, Cal State, private, etc., and they can guide you in that. But you can call us. You can call us at Chirla, and we can give you all the information you need around how to pay for your education here in California. Okay, so don't give up on your dreams. There is support for you. Okay.
Yes, thank you. It's just that in my school, I asked for the guidance, but no one helped me.
Well,
And
that's
now-
why we're here. That's why we're here. So you can go to www.chirla.org. There's a whole page, it's called Student Services, and you can get a whole bunch of information as to how to pay for your college, okay?
Excuse me, my brother wants to make a question to David.
Please.
Please.
I love this family.
Oh my God.
Me too. Nosotros a ellos.
Thank you. We love you too.
Dígale a David que yo querido, aquí he estado buscando un centro comunitario. ¿Me pueden traducir a David, por favor? Es que he estado buscando un centro comunitario colombiano o de Colombia para apoyo a los colombianos acá en Los Ángeles y pues no lo he encontrado. Primero, pues en mi embajada solo es de documentación, pero no he encontrado un centro ni en Facebook ni en cualquier lado donde me digan, yo llegué como colombiano a Los Ángeles y me digan, aquí puede estudiar, aquí puede vivir, aquí están los documentos. O sea, mi pregunta a David era si tiene alguna posibilidad de que me pueda orientar a que yo pueda crear un centro o un apoyo, un centro como comunitario o un centro de apoyo para los colombianos o para personas de Sudamérica que quieran venir a conocer o a tener un clúster de estudio, un clúster de tecnología, un clúster de cine, crear como un centro de información.
Okay. Bueno, hay una organización, and so his question is, are there organizations that work with Colombians? And most Colombians are, so that's the question. Mire, la organización que aquí en Los Ángeles hay una organización que se llama Colombianos Unidos, que han estado muy involucrados con nosotros en la batalla por los derechos. Tienen una página de web, puede ir a ellos. Sin embargo, obviamente en la costa este hay más organizaciones colombianas que aquí no es por la población. Así que nomás lo que sí le digo es de que hay organizaciones que pueden ayudarle a conectarse, pero comience con Colombianos Unidos porque han estado muy involucrados en eso. Tienen su página de web. Just invited them to join, to be, get to know Colombianos Unidos, which is an organization that's been very active in the fight for immigrant rights. And they have a Facebook page and they can connect.
Great. Thank you for all those questions. You know what? I want to thank John Preisner for asking that question because I forgot to ask a very important question early on because I wanted to do it while everybody else was on. And the question was, for everyone on this call who wants to help immigrants in Los Angeles, what actions can they take to help immigrants? And I'm going to have all three panelists answer that question. Judy, welcome back, Judy. You want to start first? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We lost you.
First of all, I think we need to have a national campaign to eliminate the phrase arriving alien. It's so dehumanizing. No one is an arriving alien. We're all people. Some people are coming to us asking for help. That term, arriving alien, needs to be eliminated from the statutes. And everybody can take part in voicing that concern.
Great. Juan Jose, how can people help the immigrant community?
Well, supporting their quest for equal treatment in this country. I mean, the fact that the executive branch of government, the president of the United States took it upon himself to disqualify all undocumented persons, including American citizens who committed a sin, or so it would seem, of marrying an undocumented person, who were effectively prevented from receiving the one-time payment of $1,200 and the $500 for each child. I mean, that is totally racist, un-American. We cannot stand for that. And the only way to deal with those kinds of issues, obviously, are to support immigrants who are fighting to get that right back, or such rights. So as far as I'm concerned, that means not only knowing where there are services that you can get right now, but also understand that, as Judy mentioned, we need to build this national broad movement to make sure that nobody's discriminated in this country, including undocumented immigrants. And that means we have to organize and mobilize and support those public reps that support us and our just demands. So all the people that are represented in this phone call or in this video call, are actively involved in promoting the rights of immigrants. So I hope that all those that haven't gotten to ask a question but want to get involved, like this Colombian person who asked several questions, call us and we'll direct you to how you can become involved, because it's not just about getting a service, but about getting involved to secure everybody's rights.
May I add something to that? I'm not, okay. We have to form a resistance, because on my website, you'll see an article, 8 Steps Towards Genocide. And it begins with regarding certain groups of people as the other. They're not us, they're them. And we can see in the rhetoric and of our executive branch responding to people who are not necessarily white males. Those people are the other people. And then it goes further to label those people as vermin or less than human or insects, which has actually been in the rhetoric in this country. And therefore we have to stop these steps towards genocide before we actually face mass genocide. This country has experienced genocide from the beginning, when we killed hundreds of thousands of Native Americans. We're not innocent of genocide, and we can visit that horror again. We must form a resistance to prevent it. Everyone must be part of this resistance to look at everyone as an equal person, regardless of their race, their nationality, their religion, anything. We are all brothers and sisters on this planet.
Great. Angelica?
I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do right now. Number 1, we need all of us, we need to fight for the passage of the HEROES Act at the federal level. So that means making sure your member of Congress is on board. And then we're going to be doing a lot of work to push the Senate to get it through. It matters because it's resources to our communities that are badly needed right now, for our cities like the city of LA, so we can do more to support immigrants. And so we need everybody involved across this country to pass the HEROES Act. It is the most progressive and inclusive response to COVID-19 led by the House of Representatives. That's number 1. Number 2 is at the state level, we need to make sure that immigrants are fully recognized as California residents for the purposes of access to the safety net and also to economic relief. So we applaud Governor Newsom for the $75 million that he has allocated for the undocumented, but more needs to be done, including access to food and access to unemployment benefits. A whole bunch of things our community needs. So that's the state level fight, is full inclusion of immigrants. And at the local level is making sure that our communities have the resources, and already it's actually being organized around rental assistance and mortgage assistance, so folks do not lose their homes after this. So these are some of the campaigns. You can go to the CHIRLA website, join the Yo Soy California, I Am California campaign, and it'll tell you all the different things you could do at the federal, at the state, and at the local level. And just keep supporting our leaders, like Councilmember Ryu, in order for individuals that actually believe and respect immigrants, believe immigrants matter in our communities, and also advance policies that protect them.
Great, thank you.
And if I may, the third point that Angelica made, I think it's very, very important, the one about housing. I know that this is a forum about immigration, but given that it was mentioned, I want to mention the fact that organizations in this city have already begun the process of organizing, and anybody can join. If you contact us, we'll tell you who to go to and all that, to make sure that people are not subjected to rent demand or mortgage demands. We know that that's on hold, but what people are demanding now is that rent or that mortgage is not accumulated, so that once the pandemic is over, you owe all this money. It's just been accumulated. And so hopefully people like yourself, Councilmember Ryu and others in the city council and across the state, and hopefully ultimately in the country, right? Support these kind of demands, which are just demands, right? Because if people don't have money, they're out of work, why should they be expected to pay when they haven't been receiving most of their income once the pandemic is over? So let's just not stop at simply not demand, not forcing people to have to pay their rent now in the middle of the crisis, but let's make sure that they don't accumulate that debt, because then it's not really the type of help that people need and expect to have across the country, certainly here in Southern California and the state.
I'm muted again, but I wanted to say something. I just wanted to bring up the rights of children and the rights of women. There are so many women and children standing outside the border, right outside the border at our southern border. And these children are being subjected to horrific conditions. There are children inside the United States whose parents are farm workers. Those mainly Mexican farm workers can be picked up in a moment and driven to the border. This COVID-19 has not stopped or slowed down deportation. It hasn't stopped or slowed down deportation at all. We have to stand up for the rights of children. There's a document, an international law document, the rights of the child, which the United States there are only 2 countries that have not signed on to this document, and the United States is one of them. We need to stand up for the rights of children because they cannot stand up for their own rights. And remember those children that were separated from their parents. Not all of those children have been located. A lot of them have been lost, and we've forgotten about them. Maybe perhaps you remember when children were separated from their parents at the border, and many of these children are just lost. Who knows where they are or what happened to them? They don't have a way to speak up for themselves. We can't forget about them.
Great. That's a great inspirational ending from everyone. And I just really want to thank everyone. And, and I'm just so proud as an immigrant to fight alongside with everybody here and all the tremendous support that we have. And, the city of LA, we have been the most progressive when it comes to all of these things that we talked about, not just immigrant rights, but housing rights. And I've been a champion for eviction moratoriums, rental assistance, renters' rights. And, and it's great to work with all the organizations that are on this call, but also there's organic organizations called Healthy LA that got created in Los Angeles, where I think it's over 310 nonprofit organizations, labor, everyone all united to fight for everyone who needs help, whether irrespective of their immigration status, the color of their skin. It is great because, we in the city of LA have been progressive, but just eviction moratorium alone doesn't do it. We need to go to the state. We need to go to the federal government. We need to make sure we have actual rent and mortgage forgiveness, because it's a whole domino effect, right? We need more support on the ground for everyday Angelinos. And, and it's very important to know that pretty much majority of all Americans, minus Native Americans, who this is the real true Americans, and of course, African Americans who are forced to come to this country. Besides those 2 groups, everyone else is or was an immigrant. And I am a proud immigrant, and we got to remember this country was built on the backs of immigrants, from railroads to the internet and to the fruits and vegetables that come on your table today is all on the backs of immigrants. So I just want us to recognize that, because everything is interconnected. Immigrant rights, housing rights, renters' rights, all of this is together. And I really want to thank all of the allies to the immigrant community who are on this call. We said a lot of information, especially at the end. You could go, you can still see the chat column, but you could go to my website. It's davidrue.lacity.org. And if you go there, all the organizations that are on this call today, from Judy Woods, famed attorney, immigration and rights attorney, Juan José from Vamos Unidos, and Charla, Marisol, and Angelica. All their information is on my website. You can go to their website as well. Every other organization that we listed. People also asked about how they could help. we have the mayor's fund, which you could donate to, where he has the Angelino card. But if you specifically want to donate to immigrants, the Immigrant Neighbor Fund, which is brand new, and their goal is to hit $4 million, and East West Bank already put up $1 million, so they're still short. You could go to their website. We'll list it again on my website and on the chat screen as well. But you could go to their website to apply for the $500. And remember, these are only for immigrants who don't qualify for anything else. So if you qualify for other funds, federal funds, then you can't qualify for this. This is for those immigrants, those who might be undocumented, those who don't qualify for anything else, for them to get this money. But there's also, on that same website, you could donate to the fund to help other immigrants. So that's another way as well. And if you contact Chirla or Vamos Unidos or my office, we'll let you know of other ways to support as well the immigrant community. And I just want to end with the census. Census is very, very important. I have made sure that my office is supporting Chirla and all the various organizations, including ANC, the Armenian National Committee, the Korean community, every community to do with census outreach, because with all the anti-immigrant language and anti-immigrant sentiment that exists in our country, it is affecting the census count. So we got to make sure everyone gets counted, because that is the beginning fundamental step for us to get all these resources to our communities. So please do the census, please get counted. If you need help, contact any of our organizations for help. So I want to thank everybody on this call, thank all the panelists again. Hopefully we can do it again, and hopefully this sparks many other folks to do immigration town halls, because it's very necessary. And for everybody who's listening in, and for everyone who's going to listen into rebroadcast, thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.